on screen.
We're live, so welcome to the Project Nerdy live show to discuss Mockingjay Part 1.
With kitties.
My guests will introduce themselves.
This is Holly. Woo.
It's Kat and Kona.
Yeah.
Probably won't stay. Yep. She doesn't like that. Damn shy.
Well, if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't worry, because the first part of the show, we're not going to get into any spoilers, and when we start discussing that, we'll let you know, so you can leave the show at that time and then come back and rewatch once you have actually watched the movie. So first off, did y'all want to talk about any non-spoiler stuff of the movie first, or talk about me being an extra first?
Let's talk about you being an extra, because I think we could do that without being too spoilery.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, I thought you didn't do it. But then you're like, oh yeah, but I did it. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I can get into that. So basically, what happened, if you're not familiar, Georgia is now like the third or fourth biggest state in the country in regard to filming movies. It's huge, so the past few years it's really taken off. In fact, it's got to the point now where they're building massive film studios here and stuff, so it's more of a permanent industry. So because of that, the local newspaper in Atlanta, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they have set up like a entertainment blog to kind of talk about, seeing the stars in Atlanta, stuff like that. But they also constantly post stuff for the movies they're filming here. They're looking for extras. And so that's how I found out about the opportunity. I've never really been interested in doing that. I never really was in a drama or acting, anything like that. But when I saw they were looking for Hunger Games stuff, I thought, well, that's cool, because I love the book. And the description of what they were looking for matched me pretty perfect. They were looking for slender men and women in their teens or 20s, no tan, no tattoos visible, that type of stuff. Close, cut hair, that type of. So everything they were looking for fit me. So I more just applied because I thought it would be neat to apply, and I could say, hey, I applied, but I didn't really think I'd get it. So I sent an email while I was at work, right when I got to office, and literally that afternoon I got a call on my cell phone and basically asked if I could come down to Atlanta like as soon as I possibly could for a costume fitting.
Yeah.
So I told them, well, I can't leave work. I said, can I come after 5 p.m.? And they said, all right. So it turns out when I actually got to the film studio, they were actually just waiting for me, which I don't think people were happy because they'd already been up apparently since like 2 or 3 o'clock that morning. So they'd turned the Hunger Games, since they were filming both parts, I'm sure that's why they had such a big setup. They'd filmed stage just into their costume department. So you got there, they took your measurements real quick, and then they took you back, did a quick try-on costume. And I should say, before I get too far, I was one of the citizens of District 13. So basically my costume was fairly simple. It was like overalls with real basic boots, nothing too standard. So they did quick that. I was lucky I actually got in because apparently I got the last pair of boots in my size. So if my feet had been a little bit bigger, I would have got it. And apparently they were European size shoes either, so I guess they'd imported them somewhere from Europe. I don't know why, but so got fitted for a costume, that worked, and then they immediately cut my hair. One of the things in the extra calling that you file buzz cut, so you had to be willing to have your hair cut. So they immediately sent me back to the barber, which he wasn't happy because he was supposed to have left like an hour ago. So he was having to stick around. So the entire time he was cutting my hair, he was getting calls from his friends about why he hasn't picked them up yet and that type of stuff.
You're like, awkward.
So cut my hair real quick, and then they had to take photos, all this various different angles. So then when filming started, they could match the photos up with my hair and then recut the hair at that time to know what they looked like. Because obviously this might happen over a couple months, and they need the hair to look similar the entire time. Then they came out and took photos, hair with costume. This is the only thing I really don't know what it meant. The guy who was in charge of the costumes came over while they were taking my photos and asked what they had planned for me. So they said, well, whatever their classification for what kind of citizen I was. And then he made me move my head like this, and he got real close, and he looked at my hair and stuff, and he goes, he might work for this. And he kind of thought about it, he's like, no, never mind. So I don't know what part they were thinking about. The only thing I could think of is for some of the citizens of District 13, they got tattoos on their arm, which they never showed this in the movie, from what I saw. So I don't know if they'll do this in part 2, but it's supposed to be there was, like when you were walking around, District 13 was so regulated.
There's a schedule on your arm.
Your schedule was scanned in, and they'd have to scan it.
Cool.
So they filmed some stuff with the extras having that scanned, but obviously they didn't put that tattoo on everybody. So I wonder if maybe they were thinking of doing that. That was my only guess, because that was really the only specialized worker. The other part.
On your face to see.
Well, I don't, because they did. I think those people were getting more close-ups. Because they'd have to show it. So I don't know if that was what they were looking for. I really don't know. The tattoo.
Well, I can think on a non-spoilery thing where there are where there's like the main cast and then workers in the background, in where you wouldn't have been a face in the crowd. It would have been like you'd be sitting at a table doing something.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've found interesting. All right, so I'll get to that part in a second. So first I'll tell you why I almost didn't do it, and then I did do it. So the first, when they first booked me, they basically told me there was about 20 possible filming dates. They didn't know when. And the first date, for a variety of reasons, did not work out. It just wasn't really possible. They were filming way in South Georgia, so it was like a 4 or 5 hour drive. It was real short notice. So I basically told them I couldn't do it. And in the instruction they give you, they basically lay down all these threats. Like if you back out, they're going to blacklist you. If you do anything on set, you're not supposed to like bring a phone with a camera or try to take a picture while you're on set or anything like that. Or if they catch you leaking stuff on social media about what you see on set, they'll blacklist you. So all this type of stuff. So I assumed since I missed the first day that I was just done. You know, they didn't want me back. Then like a month later, they emailed me and said, hey, we want you to film these 2 days. Can you be the first period of filming? Does that mean I'm still eligible? And they said, yeah, you're still eligible. But I think they were so desperate for extras because District 13 had huge crowd scenes, and they needed a lot of people. So I think they did a lot of stuff as scare tactics to try to keep you in line, but they weren't really that serious about it. Like if you missed a day, you could still come and film.
That makes sense.
So I ended up in film for a couple days in December. So the scenes I were in were the scenes, what they called that day the core. So basically the 2 scenes, one we shot a half a day, which is when Jennifer Lawrence is coming down the elevator with the security chief guy, which I can't really think of his name. All right, you know, they get to the bottom of the elevator and they just walk across a little people walking around. Yeah, we filmed that for like 8 hours.
It's crazy.
Because how the elevator worked, it was actually like on a low forklift, basically, that was like 2 stories high. So the forklift would lower the elevator, the door would open, they would walk, we would walk in the background, they'd stop, reset, and just do that over and over and over again and film it from every single possible angle you could think of. In some of the scenes they had her doing dialogue, other ones they didn't. I think in the version they showed in the movie she's not speaking, so I think they went for the non-dialogue stuff. So that was, like I said, nearly a half a day there. The other scene I filmed was the speech that Julianne Moore gives about the deal she struck with Katniss, the victor's immunity.
When everyone's pissed off.
Yeah. So that took forever because they filmed. So one, even though there were a couple hundred extras there weren't enough to do on the floor. And if you notice when she's doing that speech, there's also balconies.
Yeah.
The balconies are real. They're really there. They weren't.
Oh, I figured it was CGI.
No, they're real. But they didn't have enough extras to have people on the floor and the balconies at the same time. So they had to film the scene first with extras on the ground floor, and then the extras were then moved up to the balconies, and then so Julianne Moore had to give that speech over and over and over again. And there were sometimes they were able to film without her giving the speech, just us doing reaction stuff.
So did you guys get to like boo and stuff?
Yeah, we got to when the movie they kind of changed the sound effects. We actually just were told to hiss.
It's weird.
So it was like, just wanted to use that for a bass, and they went in later with special effects and, ramped it up.
That's so weird.
So the thing I was going to say, Kat, how you said, there were people in the background that had more close-ups. So there were a few times when they were filming, the reason it took so long, they filmed everything from every single possible angle. So like when Katniss is talking to her sister about when she first says the president says the thing about the author, and she goes over to talk to Finnick, and she just says like a couple words to her sister. They filmed that couple lines of dialogue from every single possible angle. So some there were extras very much in the background, other ones we were just a blur. They were really not picky who was right behind them. They just had us in sections, and they just kind of moved you around, and you were just there. So for that one, I was Lily, and that's the one able to see myself. I think there's a few of the scenes I'm pretty positive if I pause, I'll be able to see myself on DVD, but theater just moved by too quick. But the scene where she's talking to her sister, I was literally like 3 people behind her.
Wow. You think you'd stand out? You're so tall.
I was pretty close behind her. So during that scene, I saw her, obviously, the actress who plays her sister, saw Finnick, the actor who plays him, and then Julianne Moore a lot. The biggest things, like Jennifer, she looked a lot shorter in person. I think a huge reason for that, the costume she is wearing was the same as mine, is like just regular boots with no heels. I think most time you see her on TV and stuff, she has these high heels on, so she just naturally looks taller. So that threw me off when you first see her. I think I'll say they were all super nice. They were very friendly. The cast members seemed to be getting along really well. They were joking along. They were texting each other, that type of stuff. So it was really cool, that aspect of them. She did stand right behind me, and I can't think of the actress who plays her sister's name. Lily right behind me. They were the people right behind me at one point. At one point, they changed where she was supposed to stand, and she didn't notice, so she went to her old spot. So even though the extras had moved up, she went to her old spot, so that's how she ended up right behind me. They'd actually filmed that part. She just stood there for about a minute before they came over and got her. So she did brush up against me as she walked by, so that's claim of fame,
Jennifer Lawrence almost kind of touched me on accident.
None of the extras really got to talk to her. That's clear. When they gave you your instructions, they said, we realize you want to look at the stars, try not to stare and be creepy and that type of stuff. And then they said you're not allowed to talk to them unless they talk to you first. So, and it makes sense because like that one, there's 200 or 300 extras. So if every time somebody tried to say hey and introduce it would just kill filming.
Yeah, very true.
It makes sense. And most of the time when she wasn't filming in break, they just popped out their phone and started looking at stuff. So you could tell they did, for the actors there. The extras really weren't there. They were just, they really were just background scenery. They, I'm sure they're so used to be filming around people that you're just in the background. They don't really notice you.
Still so cool though.
They're still awesome. So I guess the less than glamorous parts about doing it are so the days I did it. So I live about an hour north of Atlanta. They were filming a couple hours south of Atlanta in a warehouse, abandoned warehouse in a small suburban city that they built the core in. It was just an empty warehouse that they had enough room to build all that.
Wow.
About a 3-hour drive. You had to be at the extra parking lot by 4:30 a.m. So I, left my house like at 1:30 in the morning to do the 3-hour drive down there, because they warn you, you have to be here by 5 a.m., 4:30 to 5 in that time range. If you're there at 5:01, it's too late. We ended up, they were super late. So they had us park at a mall, like behind the mall, because they didn't want the extras parking on set. So just milling around the parking lot waiting for the shuttle buses to get there. The shuttle buses were like 40 minutes late. So we stood in a parking lot for about an hour, freezing, because it was the middle of December during one of the coldest winters in Georgia history. So it was like 20 degrees outside. Then they shuttle you to this abandoned warehouse that has no heat in it. You weren't. They told you could wear like a undershirt or something to stay warm, and but they had set socks you were supposed to wear. You really couldn't wear multiple layers underneath because it would bulk up your costume. And like I said, for the guys, and the girls, we were just wearing overalls, so very, very thin. I mean, I would say as thin as a t-shirt. No space heaters, anything like that. And we were there for 15 hours. So the first was getting in costume, which is very, very quick. Costume was really, and that's the only souvenir I have from it. So when you did your costume fitting, they gave you a little ID tag, which that's that.
Ooh, fancy.
So when you
D13053.
and the little seashore at the thing, that's the code for the movie, because any of the stuff, they never said you were filming on the Hunger Games, although everybody knew you were filming on the Hunger Games. But like any of the official emails they sent you or any paperwork, it said like the unnamed trilogy seashore or something like that.
Pretty standard for most films.
So when you checked in, you just showed them your card, and then you went to the costume thing, and there would be a bag of clothes that had 053, so that was mine, and you would get changed out really quickly. What took forever the first day was hair, because they had to redo everybody's hair. So all the female extras had to get their hair braided certain ways. If you notice in District 13, they all had their hair in certain styles. Luckily for them, it didn't take as long. For the men, it took longer because we had to get our hair buzzed again. So there was literally like 200 male extras. They had 5 or 6 barbers cutting. We were in line for 2 or 3 hours getting our hair cut.
Wow.
I actually missed a couple hours filming. Yeah. So the line was so long, at a certain point, the female extras finished before the male extras. So I was at the middle of the line, and they actually divided the line in half and put the other male extras to the female extra, basically hair trailer, to get their hair shaved. So since I was in the middle, I became at the end of one of the lines. So me and like the last 10 guys in that line did not get our hair cut in time for the first bit of filming. So they actually filmed on that elevator scene a couple hours before I got to join in. So once they cut our hair and did really basic makeup, they put makeup on to kind of make your skin even look paler. But once they cut your hair, we had to go to the a little tent they'd had set up, and we just had to sit there for a couple hours, just killing time. You're already freezing. The only other extras back there were some of the they had extras from nurses and stuff like that weren't supposed to be in the big scene, so they were waiting there killing time. So you did that for a while. We were, again, freezing cold. Then you filmed for a few hours, and we did a lunch break. I won't say anything. They did have good food for lunch. Very nice. Had a huge. The one thing that surprised me on the craft services thing, So the main dish for lunch was pasta with marinara sauce. But the thing is, they keep you in costume when you're eating. So everybody was scared to death that you were going to spill sauce on your costume. So to me, it makes sense. It wasn't a smart idea. Like, hey, let's give the extras food that's very easy to spill on your costume and stain it. But I guess they just trusted us to be insanely careful. So we did a lunch break.
Pasta in mass is really easy to make and cheap to make versus
Probably.
something cleaner. But
Probably. Yeah, so
True.
the lunch break was really the only long break we got. We got about like an hour break, and then we proceeded to film for like 10 straight hours. So even though we filmed till 9:30 that night, we never took a break for dinner. At one point, they let us go out and do like a real quick snack for like 10 minutes. We went back in. It was so cold in between filming. There were some of the crew that would go around with those little baggy things you can break and kind of put between your hands to warm them up. So if a certain extra started looking too freezing cold, they would go over there and do that. Your lips would get chapped because it was so cold. So they'd go around with like chapstick, and everybody was having to use the same chapstick. They just would go around, all right, here, your lips are too chapped, you know.
Please don't.
Yeah. Since it was an abandoned warehouse, you were standing on like asphalt, concrete the entire time. There were no chairs, so you just when you took a break from filming, you had to stand in your spot. So you were basically standing and walking on concrete all day. So even though you really weren't doing anything, by the end of the day, you were insanely sore. You were tired. I mean, at that point, by the end of the day, all the extras had been up for like 20 straight hours. So you just wanted to fall asleep. So in between breaks, you would actually try to sit down on the floor or lean up against the wall or something like that.
Did they pay you for this?
Yes, they did pay you. The standard, I think every movie's a little bit different. For the Hunger Games, if I remember correctly, the standard fee rate is like $8 for the first 8 or 9 hours, and after that it's time and a half. And basically, there's some people that I talked to that were extras. They kind of do this as their part-time work now, like they're college students, and they're just extras on movies nonstop. And they say basically all movies you always get to the time and a half aspect. So the days I filmed, I pretty much got like $120 to $140 a day. So decent amount of money, but it's not like you're going to get rich doing it.
Yeah, still cool though. I'd volunteer to do that for free. So the fact that they paid you is awesome.
And that's part of the reason why it took so long too, because when you get there, you have to sign this form. You have to fill out like your W-2 tax forms and all this stuff. You have to sign a non-union waiver form, that type of stuff. And at the end of the day, you have to turn in your pay stub to get your info, so they know you actually were there the entire day, how many hours to pay, that type of stuff. Part of the reason I was to say why it took so long and there were so many breaks in between filming, I'm not sure if it was just because Jennifer Lawrence had a wig on or if the close-ups on her were so close, but every time she did that dialogue with her sister before she walked off, when they reset, they had a hairstylist that would come over, and they'd had to make sure every strand of hair was the exact same spot. Mm-hmm. So they'd have to pick, and that literally took like 2 or 3 minutes every single time. And so you just had to sit there and wait until they'd finish with her hairstyle. So that drug it out forever.
I was actually thinking about her wig the other day. I was trying to figure out if she had worn one on the first Hunger Games. Because I know she didn't cut her hair really short until after Catching Fire, I think.
Yeah, she did cut it.
I wonder if it was always a wig or if it just recently became a wig.
Yeah, that I don't know. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was weird. I think that's when you first see her, it kind of throws you off because you're so used to seeing her with different color hair that suddenly when you see her the really dark hair, it throws you off for a second. So they had to mess with her hair the entire time. So that was really slowed down filming.
That's pretty standard.
The weird thing was they didn't mess with any of the other actresses' hair like that. So like Julianne Moore, even though she was giving the speech, they never did that with Julianne Moore. They never did it with her sister. It was just when Jennifer Lawrence's stuff. So, it made me wonder, just because it was a wig, if maybe the hair moved more on it and they were more concerned about it, or if maybe it was such a close up of her face that they were more conscious of it because of that.
Makes sense.
Well, every shot needs to look like it came from one slice in time.
Yes. Yep. So I'm trying to think. Oh, so I did get offers to do more days of filming. Some just did not work out with my schedules. So I'm thinking those were the days where they filmed, like where they were doing the speeches towards the end of the movie, where they were doing the happy yells from the crowd and that stuff. I won't say what until later before we get to spoiler stuff. There's also a scene, if you know, with all the extras where they're involved a stairway in water.
Yes.
I was offered a chance to film on that. I turned it down because actually for that day you do get water pay. So apparently when there's scenes that involve water, they give you like a hazard pay. So you get paid $2 or $3 extra. The day they wanted to do that was like in the middle of January. It was like 15 or 20 degrees. And they basically said in the email, you'll be in water all day, but you do get to wear a wetsuit underneath your overalls. And I was like, I just do not want to do that. That does not sound like I want to spend 15 hours freezing cold, soaked in water. I've got my movie experience.
Walking up and down stairs, that's literally what you would have to do. Walk down, run down the stairs, and then run back up them, do it again for 10 hours, and no thanks.
So
I don't think I would have done that either.
That was the one day I could have filmed that I just turned down because like I did not want to do that. Some of the other people who do this a lot as extras mentioned, like if you do any scenes where you do remotely stunt-like work, like if you're a scene where you're running or if you had to hold a gun or something like that, you get paid extra for that. And so the levels do get paid differently, and I'm not sure how that would be different compared to a smaller budget movie. Like I'm not sure if Mockingjay could afford to pay all their extras, but if you were on like a movie that might only gross like $40 million, if you're going to do that for free or you know what, but for Mockingjay, everybody that was there was getting paid.
I remember when they were talking about being extras on like Twilight. They were the kids who went to school with the Cullens and Bella, and they casted people out of, didn't they film that in parts of it in the States, but parts of it in Canada, but the ones that were in the States. Oregon, yeah. So.
Yeah, and for this one, I believe this was the first. Of course, the first Hunger Games movie they filmed in North Carolina and some other places. The second one they filmed part of it in Georgia. Part 3 and 4, I believe they filmed everything in Georgia. So everything you see is like when they shoot the mountains, that's the North Georgia mountains, stuff like that. The presidential mansion is a mansion in Atlanta. It's actually part of the Atlanta History Center. So everything that's filmed there is Georgia now. So all the extras you see are all people with nice Southern accents like me and all that sorts of fun stuff.
So they're like, don't talk.
Yeah, don't talk.
Yeah. Like you're ruining the image of District 13, which I think is supposed to be like in Maine or something, somewhere north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where it's supposed to be, somewhere like that. I did know somebody else that was like an extra for one of some of the Capitol scenes in the last movies, but that was. I think they actually got in, but obviously it depended on what they were looking look-wise.
Yeah.
The other thing that was of interest, the guy who was actually in charge of the extras for I think he was in charge of the extras for the Hunger Games. He was also in charge of, at the same time they were filming the new Fast and Furious movie, and he was doing something on that movie as well, so he had to have their set, and that was like a week after Paul Walker had died. So the entire time he was on set, all the people were actually talking to him, trying to figure. At that point, they didn't know what they were going to do with that movie. So you kind of got behind the scenes stuff with that movie as they were trying to figure it out.
That's interesting.
I can't really think of anything else related to my experience. Like I said, they wouldn't let you take any pictures on set. Nothing like that. You weren't allowed to take anything. Other than like your little costume tag. So, like I said, you don't really get any souvenirs or anything like that. That you actually had to turn in your cell phones when you got on set, which you completely understand why, because they don't want stuff leaking out. So they were super strict about that.
Well, I would love to move into our spoiler section because I want to talk about the
I was
movie.
just gonna say really quick. I remember when you were. I was living in Nashville up until about a month ago, and Kyle sent me the link to his the entertainment blog
Yeah.
when that was like, if you want to come down, you should. And I didn't fit any of the descriptions, and I probably would have made sure it would happen though if any of those listings were for capital people because I so would have been like, screw all of you, I'm gonna go be a capital person.
The one thing that's interesting, once you're extra, you get on their email list. So I get emails every week of them looking for extras.
It's awesome.
They never put the names of the movies, so I'm always trying to guess which movies they are because they all have these code names and stuff like that. I haven't applied to be on any of them yet. I figure if I do, I might do it in the next few months. So this one, my work schedule is less busy. Other times of the year, it just would be hard for me to take off enough time to do it. But so we'll see. But like I said, I more did this one just because I was a Hunger Games person. I never really had a desire to do anything acting or extra wise. So who knows? This might just be a one-time thing for me. But
Still pretty cool.
yep. So with that, I guess if you haven't seen the movie yet, we'll get into spoilers now. So stop watching and you can come back later. And I'll let either y'all two, whoever wants to start off.
The thing that I like keep thinking about after just seeing it last night was I didn't know Jennifer Lawrence could sing so well. And I was thinking about the Hanging Tree song and how much I really, really liked it and how much I was almost dreading it when I was rereading the book just a few weeks ago. And I was like, because I thought it was an interesting concept and the lyrics were cool. But it just doesn't have the same thing when you don't have like a melody to go to it. And so, you'd always just read through it and be like, okay, the Hanging Tree, blah, blah, blah. Interesting story. It's deep and meaningful. But then like they made it like so good. Like I was blown away by everything with it. Because I remember they're sitting by the river or whatever in there, and he's like, sing a song, and she's like, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like getting ready to cringe. And it was so good, and I was blown away, and it was like super emotional, and then like they transitioned from her singing into like the dam explosion, and I was like, this is so awesome, and I thought that was like probably the coolest part of the whole movie for me, and like the most like emotional part, and I love it, and I've been like listening to it all day like a loser. It's really good.
Yeah, she did.
I really liked that they made it like folky country influence, like so it sounded like it'd been passed down through generations.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say the one part of that I did find weird is I did get thrown off that the people that were, as they were marching to that were all singing in unison to the song, so it almost like broke into a mini musical scene for a second. So that threw me off for a second, but other than that, I thought it was a great little segment.
It's true, but it
It's
kind
a
of
very
makes
good
sense.
way to bridge the two ideas, to like really prove to you that the propos were getting out there to the people, that what Katniss was filming was actually being seen.
Yeah, it was awesome. So cool. I was really excited for this because Catching Fire is my favorite book in the series, and when I read Mockingjay for the first time, I was not impressed by it. Probably because we had 2 books full of like arena action, and then it was like, okay, like third books are always hard. You either love them or you don't. But I wasn't too impressed with Mockingjay when I first read it, and the second time around I was a little more impressed, but I was still just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, Mockingjay, I guess they better make it. It's gonna make money. And then I remembered, like, okay, well, we only have Katniss's perspective in Mockingjay. It's all first-person narrative. It's all, I did this, And I was like, I really am excited to watch this because they're going to hopefully, they'll show all the stuff that you only hear about. Like them breaking in to rescue PETA. During that, we just heard Finnick's speech, which was good, but, not that great. But the movie made it so cool, like how both were happening at the same time, and so what I really liked about the part 1 was just seeing all of this rebellion and all of this interesting stuff happening that you didn't get to see in the books that you only heard about from Katniss's. Oh, I heard that District 8 had an uprising, or, the lumberjacks all dressed in flannel had an uprising. But to see it was like super awesome, and I was like, oh, I was super into it. I really, really liked it.
Yeah, I did like that part of movie compared to the book. Because my big complaint with the book, and I wasn't a huge fan of the book either, was I read a lot of military sci-fi stuff. So I read a lot of books that has like battle scenes in it and rebellions and that type of stuff. And my one big complaint with the book was it just made it seem like all the districts were able to overthrow and defeat the capital very, very easily. Like once they started, it just there weren't many capital victories in Mockingjay. It's like all the districts just quickly fell to their rebellion and they quickly marched to the capital and that type of stuff. The movie kind of did a better job of showing the capital was winning a lot of the time, and it made it more of a struggle and seemed like there was more at stake. Where in the book, it almost seemed like it was inevitable that the capital was going to fall.
Which I think plays to the perspective of Katniss, because she only knows what she's allowed to see, and I bet that what she was allowed to see is that we're winning and that what you're doing matters because of the amount of control that Coin had to have on her, even though Katniss is not very controllable, as we find out through the whole series from beginning to end, that even if you do tighten the reins on her, she kind of figures out, or people figure out how to get her out of the sticky wickets that she gets into.
It's true, it's true.
I was going to say, with the Finnick speech, I really like how they cut it together. I think, I liked that it was happening simultaneously so that you could really get into, this was a stall tactic, that this was a distraction, that this was very, very planned. I just wish, because it was so jarring to jump back between the smooth, silky, spilling of the secrets and then into the infiltration scenes, it was very jarring. So I kind of wish that his voiceover would have done the whole thing so that you would have been able to hear his entire speech, which is so good in plot development and character development. I mean, Finnick is my favorite character above everybody else. I'm all Katniss and Peeta for the win as a couple and as the protagonist and happy-go-lucky stuff, but Finnick is my favorite character. And because that happens a lot in the series with me, I'm like, Luna's my favorite character. Alice Cullen, she's my favorite character. And Finnick, my favorite character. I really wish that we would have been able to really hear his side of the story, because as far as plot, it was really well, because you could see that it was a distraction, you could see that it was a ploy. But for him, when I talked to other people who hadn't read the book, they're like, oh, I didn't really realize what he was talking about. He was prostituted? I was like, yes, this is the big deal, to show that the capital is kind of horrid, and not just horrid in this section of, killing children, but then, keeping you under the thumb for the rest of your life and killing your family horrid, and that's so beautiful, and you see why Finnick is the way he is, and you see why all the other anybody who's desirable or anybody who is still under the thumb of the capital after they're victors, you see why all these people are the way they are, because this is what they have to deal with ever since their name was pulled and they survived. So I think it gives us wonderful depth to all these people who you wouldn't care about otherwise, because you're like, oh yeah, that's just some jerk trying to kill Katniss again, versus no, they're actual real people in this fictional universe. We're dealing with a lot of
They are real people. They're real people to me.
Yeah,
and that's a good point.
Wow,
I really wish that they would have portrayed it a little bit smoother. Just visually, it was awesome, but it was really trying to figure out what he's saying. And since it is so important to the fall of the capital and spilling all the secrets, that's the big thing, is he collected all the big secrets, so you should have been able to hear the secrets he was giving you.
True, so true.
I was going to say, I didn't see Finnick in person, so at least on that one day he was a real person.
Very good point. Good point. Yeah, no, it was a very good. The speech in the book was, it was a whole chapter. It was devoted to him just spilling these secrets, and even the capital when they're filming it. Well, I don't know who their names are. I can't remember. Natalie Dormer, I guess. should just say.
Cressida.
Yeah, right, Cressida, thank you. When they're filming it, even they're like, oh my god, because they're from the Capitol, and like the secrets that he's spilling are like so insane to them, and like that's their reaction is so important. You don't even see it
Yeah.
at all. So, and their reaction should reflect how the rest of the Capitol is. And they didn't really touch that the Capitol was listening, and I don't know how they were because the power was off, but then the TVs were working. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was broadcasting.
Yeah, when they said at the beginning, they said probably nobody will see this, but it'll jam up their their signals. But it wasn't clear if nobody could see it, or if some people could see it, or what the deal was. But
I don't know either, but it's still interesting. Should have been. It was good from a movie perspective, but from a character development and from just what the secrets were, they didn't. Like, if you weren't paying, like the action of saving Peter was much more interesting to people who haven't read the book than whatever the fuck Fennec's saying over there. Like, no one even knows.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
whatever. But
which is why if they had just had it be a voiceover, like they could still cut back and forth to him talking, but when they cut to the scenes, like you still hear his speech over those scenes, that I feel like it would have just been less jarring and you would have actually gotten more information across. And since what he was saying was so important to like just really sharing how awful the Capitol is, then and that also gives more sympathies to Coin and sets up Coin for this is the spoiler section. It sets up Coin for a greater fall when you, because that was the whole thing with the Propos, like show how bad the Capitol is, and if everyone's paying attention to how terrible the Capitol is and how we're liberating from this terrible construction, then we can slip in with our own military control your lives thing, and they'll be too busy being thankful to realize that they're just under a brand new thumb.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that was one thing I was a little surprised from, at least from part one, that they didn't really set up a whole lot that the people in District 13 aren't the best people in the world either. Where, like, I think in the book, it's been a while since I've reread it, but they dropped a lot of hints early on in the book.
Yeah.
Compared to the movie. I think by this point in the action in the book, it was already established that the president of District 13 wasn't the best person in the world either. Where in the movie, they didn't really get into a whole lot with that. So I'm interested to see how much of a villain they make her in the next part. I'm assuming they're going to follow through with that part, but
yeah, it'll be like probably a big betrayal, I'm sure, because they haven't set up any negative aspect of her. I mean, a little bit, but they just painted it like, oh, she lost her husband and she lost her daughter, and that's why she's so, focused on this one thing. And Katniss is just like, okay. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess we don't.
And also they have the scene where Coin comes out and comforts her while she's waiting for the news, and which I think is brilliant for the overall character arc of like. Again, look at this snake in snow, and there's also the snake in your room with you.
Yeah, true. It'll be very shocking to people who haven't read the book, I think.
Also, I like that. Oh, I can't. Oh, this is what I say. It's harder. They kind of washed out the part where, because Effie was there instead of, because in the books Effie's in the Capitol almost the whole time, and I really love that they did switch that and bring Effie into the movie, because she has this wonderful comic relief attached to her permanently, and she's such a ray of sunshine. Like, even in all of her wigs not being there, she still exudes so much when she is there. But from what I think this, I mean, tear me apart in the comments, or you guys if you remember, but I'm pretty sure that the District 13 grabs other parts of her prep team and tortures them to get them to comply.
Yeah,
I was surprised that wasn't in there.
And I think that part of it was to hold off on how bad that it's just an evil by another name to be under the regime of District 13. Like, I think that part one is supposed to paint the Capitol so terribly, so of a misdirection. Like, while you're focused on, yeah, if you burn, we burn with you, like, yeah, this is a great, like, rebellion, awesome, tear down the system, and it, like the misdirection thing, where if you're so busy worried about this outside threat, you're not really worried about the people who are lording over you now.
Yeah. Yeah, God, I forgot about that. Where Katniss them been tortured for like weeks, and yeah.
And Katniss is like, not okay.
Yeah, she was like, this is not okay.
Just because they grew up in the Capitol.
Yeah, and then I think Katniss is thinking too when she goes, what if they were doing this right under her nose? What else does she not know about that they're doing?
Right.
And that was so. But I think you're right. They're just waiting for part two to show. Like, I think the whole point of the Mockingjay part one and part two is just gonna show like war is shitty, and like my favorite Sirius Black quote. I think it's Sirius Black, and he says the world's not split into good people and Death Eaters. It's not like, or it's not like, you know, there's good and bad in everyone. So it'll kind of be like that, where it's like it's not just the Capitol and everyone else. There's good and bad and all that good side, just like District 13. They do good, but, you know, there's bad people in there too, and you have to be careful.
And also, the scene, I'm really interested in part two when they are kind of wrapping up the decision and they get all of the surviving victors out and they have all of the victors meet in a round table to decide whether or not they're going to continue the Hunger Games with the children of the Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that vote swings on the decision, that'll be a really interesting scene if they include it, because it does play the like circle of evil, bully circle. If you're the bullied, then you become the bullier. I can't think of what I was gonna say. Whoops.
That's a good point, though. I'm very interested to see that as well. I don't know. Mockingjay's just depressing. That whole book's depressing.
Yeah. I'm curious if they're going to come up with a little bit more of a positive or a happy aspect to end it on.
Yeah, probably not. It didn't end happy.
That's why you get the epilogue.
That's always Hollywood's, kind of desire, that, especially at the end of a series, that they want to have a little ray of hope or some way. And
well, it's
why they'd probably include the epilogue from the book.
Yeah, and I can't remember it very well. Isn't it like, it's like Peeta and Katniss, yeah, they end up together, but like they're never whole again. Like, they end up together because no one else has like experienced the things they've experienced, and it's like by default that they can only find comfort in each other or something. It's super depressing. It's like,
no, I mean, they both have a level of affection and love. Like what Finnick says, like, when you saw Peeta die in the thing, I realized that you had a true attachment to him as a person.
Yeah.
And so, it is more. It's not the romantic tra-la-la love that is so normally portrayed in fiction. That, the let's walk through the meadow and holding hands love. It's more of the connecting on a deeper level love, that they are better together than apart because they both are so broken, but there is enough there. Like, they truly care for each other as human beings. They've been together through so much, and that over time they do love each other. It's just not... It's a more real version of love, I guess, than what is normally given off in books. Because in the epilogue, they have two children, a boy and a girl, and they're talking about and Katniss talks about how eventually she's going to have to explain why her parents are so screwed up.
Yeah.
And right now and that she and Peeta try to live as far away from the new civilization as possible, because they still both feel that the new civilization isn't even that safe. And so, yeah, it's it's a happier ending than the book's tone.
That's true. That'll be interesting to see. I'm excited. I wish it wasn't coming out like a year from now. They used to do like these part two things like in 6 month increments, but now you have to wait for the Blu-ray to come out and for it to make revenue. And but I know it's already done filming, and I'm interested too to see what parts Philip Seymour Hoffman filmed before his untimely death, and how they're going to work with that. Because I think they said he still was, they were missing a few scenes with him, but it was going to be doable. They were going to work around it somehow.
Yeah, I think they were pretty close to end of filming when he did, and I know, from the impression we got while we were on set a couple of days was from talking to some extras who did multiple days, that they were shooting both parts the exact same time. Because even when we were on scene, they wouldn't tell us which part we were in. People that read the book guessed we were in part one just because the stuff was so early in the book that we thought, well, there's the only way we're in part two is if we're doing this as a flashback or some reason. We have to be in part one. But some of the other extras had already talked about filming stuff like the month before that was clearly part two stuff. So I think they were filming it just when they were at a set. They just filmed everything they were going to film there, and then they moved on to the next set.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all that stuff's filmed. I mean, they might be doing some special effects stuff.
I'm sure it's all
yeah,
done.
I'm not sure how much
the It's interesting that you said that the same casting person for Fast and the Furious was on this set, because what they ended up doing with Paul Walker was using his brothers as stand-ins and then kind of shooting from the back of the head and some tricks of the silver screen to get what they needed to kind of fill out that plot line. And what I was talking about with my friends is that I wonder if betraying Plutarch is maybe something that they could write into part two, because they are very clear with Katniss that, or at least it's very clear that if Katniss gets played down, because in the second part, she's not the Mockingjay so much in the Propos. She's just a soldier, and they're trying to play her role down as just one of the people in the crowd, because Coin realizes that if she ever makes a play for president, or if she decides that someone else should be the president of the new democracy, then everyone's gonna back Katniss.
Whatever Katniss.
And so if you're the enemy of Coin, in even just politically, then you're not worth it. So in the Propos, they try to start downplaying her role as just one of the people, so that with the residual memory is that Katniss isn't that memorable, so that she won't have as much political power when this is all over, so that Coin can again come in and take the clean sweep. And so I definitely think that it's possible. I don't know if they would do this, but if they wrote him out that way, where Coin betrays Plutarch and Katniss finds out about it, that would be a good way for her to see that she's not safe under Coin either. But I don't know if they would really do that to Philip Seymour Hoffman's character and like the whole real life.
Yeah, it probably just depends on
implications of writing out a character like that, but
it's
a possibility. I
was gonna say, it probably comes down to how much they'd actually filmed with him. You know, like if they filmed like 98% of the stuff, they're not gonna change. They might not change it a lot, but if they'd only filmed, 70%, they might change the storyline around it.
Right. What I was gonna say earlier that I forgot. I put it up on Facebook too, that I was really impressed that while The Hunger Games has never been gory with its violence, it's still very clear when people are murdered or when people are beaten or when something like that. Visually, it's been very clear that it's a violent place to live, a volatile place to live, and that when they go back to District 12, and at first it's all rubble, and then she goes over the hill and there's just bodies everywhere, and it's not like they're reduced to ash bodies. Like, you still see skeletons, and you can tell that they are people who just fell in the middle of this terrible destruction. That is something, again, it reflects the accuracy of the after effects of war a lot better than a lot of other films would. And I'm glad that they kept in those kinds of horrors, because it would be too easy to wash that out and just be like, everything is rubble and ashes.
Yeah.
Versus, no, there are still bodies that are decomposing, and like this random dog is eating the dead bodies.
Yeah.
that are
They
still
did a
here.
really, really good job.
Yeah, because this is a PG-13 movie, and for them to still keep those visuals in, I think I'm just really proud of them for doing that, because if you're really thinking about the people who are seeing this movie in those ages, and the reason books like these are so important is that it's that opportunity to give you a new perspective of consequences to your actions.
Yeah, I remember when I read the books, one of my first reactions is they'll never be able to do this as a movie because of all the violence.
Yeah.
If they took the violence out, it really wouldn't work as a movie. But they definitely figured out a way to, not downplay the violence, but the same way make it a PG-13 movie. Because
they
they
took
put
out
it
the
at work
gore.
as a rated R movie, but they found the right level.
Yeah. I mean, they took out the gore. Like, instead of a blood spray, it's a little blood squirt and then a trickle.
True.
Well, I mean, but it's true. Like, if you remember in the actual Hunger Games arenas, whenever someone gets stabbed with something, like, there's coloring around the wound, but there isn't, like, a full-on volcano of blood coming out. And then whenever the peacekeepers, yeah, peacekeepers,
I think.
like, annihilate someone, there is a little bit of spray, but it's not like a huge, like, it's enough to tell that someone just got a shot to the head, but it's not a huge murder scene, crime scene blood. If you know what I mean, like Dexter or Bones or something, or Castle. Like, it's definitely, like, there's enough blood there to prove what happened, but it isn't excessive.
Yeah, I think
to take it into a rated R film.
probably the most blood they've ever shown was actually the scene where they whipped Gale and stuff, and then they showed his back all torn up. I mean, that's probably the most graphic thing they ever did in the movie, and that was even somebody that was dead,
Yeah. Which is good. Like, it's really good that they kept those visuals in to just really show how bad this stuff can be.
One thing I was curious about, because I ended up and did not say after the credits, but the little app I used actually said there was something after the credits. Did anybody stay?
What?
It was the changing of the emblem.
Okay, because the reason I didn't say that app, it'll rank it and say, like, is it worth the time? And only like 60% of people said it was worth it. I was like, well, I'm not going to stay then. Oh, I think we just lost Kat.
I'm back. Sorry, it's telling me my battery is 20% left.
Okay, we're wrapping up.
But so it changes from this into the Mockingjay inside, like, upright, because in the films it's upright, and then the last piece is it breaking, like, in the background of this is the thing gets broken. So it does the 1, 2, 3 transition that we've seen, and then the final transition is still the Mockingjay spreading wings, but then the circle bursting.
Cool.
And that was
Very cool.
That was it.
Well, overall, let's maybe go through and just say, like, out of 10, what would you rate it? And then we can...
Out of 10.
Unless anyone has, sorry, I didn't know. I thought your battery was dying, Kat. That's why I was like...
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, another thing that I loved that they did visually was the relationship between Peeta and Katniss, and they were on the opposite sides of the world, but you really see her reacting to his visual deterioration, and she's the only one who notices.
Yeah.
Am I gone? I went
We can
dark.
still hear you, but we lost the camera.
Oh, okay. Well, and as you just see him wither away, like
Yeah.
the longer it goes on, he just starts to look so
Yeah.
bruised and tortured.
He's suffering from Captain America disease and Bella Swan vampire disease.
And
Where
then
they-
in that final scene where he's just skin and bones sitting
yeah.
in the District 13 hospital situation, and you're just like, I almost don't want to see this guy right now. I don't want to see this Cheetah.
Terrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And that whole scene was brilliant. Oh man.
Yeah, they did a good job with it.
Oh, and then the whole worry of like because you're sitting here, if you read the books, like when are they gonna cut off the movie? When are they gonna cut off the movie? When is it gonna happen? And then it just goes dark for a little while, and you're like, is that it?
No, it sucked. I'm glad they didn't do that.
All right, that's it. That's all I had.
It was a great film. I liked I loved Catching Fire, like the book and the film. I thought they were just so good. But I really liked Mockingjay, and I know obviously it's not getting as good of reviews because it's less action packed and there's not as much going on. But comparing it to the book and then watching the movie, I'm just so excited about it, and I would give Catch Fire like a 9 out of 10, but I'd give Mockingjay like a 7 to 8 out of 10. That's where I would rank it. I really liked it though a lot. Loved it.
It's kind of similar. Catching Fire is probably still my favorite of the movies. Book-wise, I like the first book the best, but I would say I enjoyed Mockingjay Part 1 better than I did the first movie. So, if you're ranking the movies at the moment, I'd put this as my number 2 in the series, which to me is pretty good because I did not like the third book at all. So the fact that I enjoyed the movie this much, to me, spoke. The director's doing a great job with it. If I had to rank it, I'd probably give it like maybe an 8 or something, because I'd probably give Catching Fire like maybe a 9.5 or something. Catching Fire to me was almost perfect. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I am one of the rare ones that I really liked Mockingjay as a book, but I definitely feel that as a literal transition from page to screen, they did an amazing job with Catching Fire, and I would probably do Catching Fire as like 9.5 out of 10, and this one, because they had some more challenges to world build, so like there's the positive side of they did some excellent world building since you get to see more of than just what Katniss is going through. I would still put it at like 9 out of 10. I think it was brilliant. I just have some personal issues with some of the choices that they made, but mostly like I'm so blown away by it, and the casting was phenomenal, and the acting was so good. And I think that's what really takes it above and beyond, is that these people finally wear these characters like second skin. And that's the one nice thing about series, is that you have the opportunity, and the actors have the opportunity to grow with these characters. You saw it in Harry Potter, you saw it in all these other things. And so I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be destroyed by part 2.
I agree.
So is there anything else anybody wants to chime in before we wrap up the show?
I think I've covered everything I want to say, except for I'm probably going to go listen to The Hanging Tree like 100 more times. So.
In order to do that, I'd have to stop listening to Blank Space.
Oh my god, don't even get me started about Taylor Swift's new album. It's so good. I'm obsessed with
And as a unfortunate bearer of news, my friend bought the whole Mockingjay Part 1 soundtrack, and other than the one Lorde song and like maybe one other one, the whole tone of the soundtrack is just not the same tone of the movie. Lorde wrote the song, the theme song, quote unquote, but she also curated all the other songs for it, and so Lorde is just too offbeat, I feel, to curate songs that match the tone of the movie, because they curate the songs that match the tone of her weirdness.
I'm gonna have to find a copy of that, because
I was gonna say go get the listing, like the the playlist off the internet and then go find the songs on YouTube and then buy selectively so you don't have to buy the whole album, because my friend really regrets buying the whole album. And she's never been, and she's like a music fiend, so she buys the album soundtracks and stuff to almost everything, and this is the first one. I mean, because say what you want about Twilight, I still love Twilight. It has a special place in my heart, but those soundtracks are phenomenal. Like, the curation of the songs are so great. And so I was like, thank you for letting me know this before I went and spent my money on the Mockingjay one.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. We'll just give this over to Lord. Just let her handle it. Why would anyone think that was a good idea? Yay.
I mean, she's great and everything, but she's still, what, 18
and I like
years
the
old?
song at the end. Yeah, I like the song she did at the end. Like, as the growing, but I can't imagine her doing a remix of like every little thing in there.
No, she curated all of the other artists that contributed to the album. So she was in charge of deciding who was on the soundtrack.
I had no idea she had that big of a hand in it.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm like, sweetheart, she's 18. Like, she's wicked talented for 18, but she's still 18.
Yikes.
So that was my last little
Good
bit
to know.
of stuff.
I probably
So
will
I
just
guess
hanging tree then.
All right. Well, I didn't have anything else to chime in, so I guess if you have, in your comment section below, please feel free to, leave any comments, feedback about the movie. Try to keep it spoiler-free, just in case anybody hasn't seen it yet. If you have any questions you want to ask me in the comment section below about being an extra, please feel free to do that. If you have any hopes for part 2, let us know in the comment section below. We don't have another live show scheduled at the moment, but who knows, we might do one before the end of the year's out, or maybe with the Christmas gift exchange or something like that. So get to work on that. If Holly and Kat, if you have it yet. Mine's already been sent out in the mail, so
I'm gonna send mine out Friday when I get paid. So.
Yeah, I did mine earlier this week because I decided I wanted to go to the post office before the post-Thanksgiving craziness started.
So smart. That's smart.
But with that, I don't have anything else, so I guess we'll end it here. So thanks for watching. If anybody's made it 1 hour into the live show, and we'll see you the next time.
Thank you. Bye.
bye.